Martial law coming to America. I've been seeing rumors of this floating around on the internet, and it's a very crucial and important topic that I believe definitely needs to be talked about because it's something that I believe is an inevitable truth based off Bible prophecy, and it's something that everybody should be preparing for and getting themselves and their families ready for. Not only is it mentioned in Bible prophecy, but we have leaked documents and leaked sources from inside the military and federal agencies, people who have leaked stuff in the past, and documents that have been released that show the dangers and the possibility of martial law coming. And it is a very important topic. First, I'm going to read you something off of the Dave Hodges, The Common Sense Show website, thecommonsenseshow.com. It was a letter he received from somebody in the military, and I'm going to read you what part of this letter says. A few sentences in, it says, "We are frequently engaged in urban warfare exercises, but this is not in the Middle East we are training for. There is no question that we are training for military activities on American soil. We have practiced arresting high-profile people. We've also trained to apprehend drug dealers in fortified crack houses. This is something that we have never had to do before and marks a change in a training regimen. My unit just practiced an extraction in the in the midst of civil unrest. All of my unit is confident that we are talking about training for action in America and in an urban setting which is usually marked by civil unrest. But we are not concerned with the unrest as it is left to supporting units to contain the trouble." And the last sentence in that letter posted says that we are concerned for our families and how they could be affected by this. Now, this is a crucial thing to be aware of, especially if you're a Bible-believing Christian. We know in Revelation 13:16 through 17, says he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one can buy or sell except the one that has the mark of the name of the beast, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, that number 666. So when the tribulation begins and the Antichrist comes on the scene and the mark of the beast is forced upon the people, if you do not have that, we know that no one's going to be allowed to buy or sell. This will cause people to go into prison. This will cause people to be killed. This is all Bible prophecy that we know of. Not only that, but we have leaked documents and we have released documents. Documents such as Rex 84, which is short for Readiness Exercise 1984. It was a classified scenario and a drill developed by the United States and the federal government in which they would detain large numbers of U.S. citizens who were determined to be national threats. Anybody who is a dissident, a political activist, going against the status quo, then these people would be detained, rounded up, and they would also be put into what we have also learned from a leaked document, re-education camps. Re-education camps in America. The document is entitled FM 3-3940, Internment and Resettlement Operations. The document discloses that the Army, and they're prepared to round up and take political activists and put them into re-education camps, where people who have political beliefs or any sort of belief system that goes against what is deemed acceptable by the state, and they will be taught and re-educated to agree with and support U.S. policies. So these are the kinds of things that we already know that have been known. Some of this stuff is old. When the re-education stuff came out, that was in 2012. Back in 2013 through like 2015, I remember the martial law thing was very popular on YouTube. That was when a lot of stuff was breaking. That's when prepping was becoming pretty popular. They had doomsday preppers on TV and everything, and that's when all of that was kind of going on, and a pretty popular thing on YouTube and on these websites. That's kind of dropped off in the past few years, and this is a good time really to be aware of what could come down the pike and what eventually will, and that people really should be preparing themselves and their families for these events that are going to happen. Especially if you are a Bible-believing Christian or somebody who, if you're probably watching this video, likes to think outside of what is normally deemed acceptable by the mainstream media and the people who run them. Those are the type of people that they would be putting in re-education camps, and the type of people who I would hope and pray to God would deny the mark of the beast whenever it comes on the scene. And that's a time when you won't be buying or selling. So, I mean, unless you plan on stealing all your food for the 7-year tribulation, I highly recommend that people start to think about these events that will be coming down the line. It's a very important thing to be aware of. And I'm happy that it's being brought up again because it is crucially important for the times that we will be facing eventually. Reading on in that article, it talks about how California wants to break up in separate states. There's a website, the New California State, where it would like to take a majority of California and separate the states into 2 states. I will show the map here on the screen, and the new state of California will be in the red. This isn't a very new topic or idea. I lived in California for a while, and people always mentioned it breaking up into 3 states, into 2 states. The state of Jefferson was one that I like the idea of because I think at least southern and northern should be separate states because they're completely 100% different on every level, and all the politicians in the southern part of the state are the ones who make the laws for the entire state. People like Dianne Feinstein and Jerry Brown have been in office and in control for so long. It's unbelievable there's not term limits on those people. But this is sparking interest in people thinking that the states will separate and maybe martial law could be enforced and that Trump will put it into force in California. I, for one, don't see that happening. California is a testing ground for authoritarian laws throughout the entire nation. They love to test these laws there. It's got one of the worst gun restriction laws in the entire nation, and they just love to test out their new authoritarian rules there. And then if the people don't fight back, then they move it on into other areas, and then it slowly spreads the disease throughout the rest of the nation in the areas where people don't stand up against it. So I highly doubt that California will actually separate into 2 different states. But again, we know, especially as Bible-believing Christians and people who don't like to follow the status quo, well, because they're liars. And that's the main deal, isn't it? I don't choose to believe known liars. That's one of the reasons I don't believe anything I see on TV, because they've been caught lying time and time again. Nothing wrong in that. That's what the normal thinking person would do. Same when you have someone say you work with a friend who always lies. You never believe what they say anytime they tell a story because they always lie. And people should be getting themselves and their families ready for the times ahead because we're moving closer and closer to end times Bible prophecy every single day. I'm sure many of you are aware in the past of when Hurricane Katrina was going on, the military was brought in, the National Guard, and what were they doing? They were confiscating just average citizens' firearms. They did gun confiscations in Hurricane Katrina. So anybody who believes that the military and the guys in the military wouldn't do it, I think depending what the situation is, a lot of guys wouldn't, especially after seeing what happened in Katrina, but a lot of guys will, especially these younger gung-ho guys who are just super into being in the military. They will follow orders. A lot of guys will follow orders. It's something that we have seen in the past and something to be aware of for the future. Now, there's a few other Bible verses that I would like to mention here that relate to the topic. One is 1 Timothy 5:8. It says, "But if anybody does not provide for his own house, and especially for those of his household, he is denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Also, Hosea 4:6, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge." So being aware and being prepared are 2 of the things that we know we're called to do as Christians. And another verse worth mentioning is in Matthew 25, the story of the 10 virgins, and that 5 were wise and 5 were foolish because 5 brought extra oil with them while they waited for the bridegroom. And the 5 who didn't bring any extra oil with them, well, they were left without their oil and they were not brought into the bridegroom to get chosen as wives. So it just makes sense to be prepared and ready. That's what people have been doing all throughout history. They've been preparing themselves and being prepared for the times ahead. Also worth mentioning is the grand solar minimum that we're heading into. Lower sunspots, the sun will be more dormant, which is what controls the temperature of the earth. It's been proven. It is not global warming. We're going to be headed towards global cooling, and this will cause crop loss and effects on agriculture. And so it's just another reason to be prepared. The smart thing to do is to be prepared for all situations at all times. It really just truly is. So is martial law coming in 2019? I don't know. That of those times, no man knows the day or the hour. But what I do know is it's smart to be ready and to be prepared for these times, and that eventually these times will come based off Bible prophecy. And if you don't believe Bible prophecy, I highly recommend that you search online all the times Bible prophecy and all the Bible prophecies that have already been fulfilled. Things written thousands of years ago. 300 prophecies written about Jesus Christ. He fulfilled them all. A mathematical impossibility. Even one person fulfilling 8 of these prophecies is 100 quadrillion. 1 out of 8, he fulfilled 300. So Bible prophecy needs to be taken very seriously. Governments all around the world already prepare for these things and prepare for detaining citizens. Luckily, we live in a place where we have a lot more freedoms than a lot of these other people, and we have a lot better chance to stand up with free speech and fight against these things that are coming. But, people just need to be aware. It's a very important thing to be prepared of. We'll see with this next election cycle what that all brings, because as we know, that brings a lot of change. A lot of things come out. A lot of things change during that time, and we're going to be headed right back into that here real soon. Interesting times to be alive. Prepare for you and your family as you see necessary. And of course, the number one greatest prep is always to be right with God. Nothing else truly matters in this world unless you're right with God. Get right with Him. See where He leads. Pray on it. Always continue to seek the Lord and where He's calling you and guiding you. All glory always goes to Him. Thanks for watching, and God bless.